Hello everyone and welcome to the second game we're showing from round 4 of this year's FIDE World Cup. The question is, can Levon do it again? He won the World Cup in 2005 where he defeated none other than Ruslan Ponomarev, and he defeated Dinglirin in 2017 in the finals also of the World Cup where he got first place. And now he's trying to get the third. He's doing okay for the moment. In round 1 he eliminated, or rather in round 2 he was seeded directly into round 2. He eliminated Aronian Ghost, and then in round 2 he eliminated Saleh Salem, who was playing some brilliant chess, but Levon just overpowered him. And Radoslaw also doing really well here. He eliminated Maxim Lagarde in round 2, and in the, round 3 he eliminated, who did he play? Vladimir Fedoseev, he eliminated Fedoseev. So both of them doing well. The question is who wants it more and who is better on this day. And the opening choice is really amazing. You guys will love it. Let's check it out. So Levon opens with pawn to e4. We have pawn to e5, knight to c3, and knight to f6. Okay, the standard Vienna, the folk beer variation. And the most played move here is pawn to f4. It's a very natural thing to do because the Vienna is sort of a I'm not really comfortable enough playing the King's Gambit, so I'm going to play knight c3 and then f4. It's sort of like an improved King's Gambit. And if you throw in a couple of more moves, let's make it a Volksbeer counter gambit. Let's say e captures on d5, pawn to e4, d3, let's say bishop to b4. All that can be played today. It's a really funny line. And we go into a game that was actually played 170 years ago, the famous Meek versus Morphy game. For example, pawn to e3, you give up another pawn, and then after castles, okay, bishop d2, you unpin, and now you're threatening to move that knight if if you want, and now just rook to e8 with check. And it's a very, very tricky situation because white is up 2 pawns, but his king is still in the center of the board. You can block with the bishop, you can block with the knight, you could maybe consider knight to e4, but only bishop to e2 keeps you in the game. If you play knight to e2, the game is already over. You're just going to play bishop c5, and there's no move that white can make. So theory around this goes very, very far. For example, queen b1, you want to play b4, a5, and white is just struggling to make moves. It doesn't matter that white is up in material. But yeah, good old Morphy knew this 170 years ago, and he played it to perfection as black. But here, not pawn to f4, which is still today by far the most played move. Sometimes they go bishop to c4, sometimes pawn to g3, pawn to a3. And there are no games, at top-level games, where pawn to a3 was played. So it's not already a new position, but it's a very, very unique one. Only a couple of games in the database. d5, e captures, knight captures, because why wouldn't you play d5? If d5 is good against f4, then it has to be good against a3. I mean, a3 is nothing. It's just Levon trying to throw Radek out of preparation. Sorry. We have queen to h5. Levon, again, with some barbarian moves here. I mean, pawn to a3 with h5. Now, that's an uncle variation. So, okay, you're attacking the e5 pawn, knight to c6, and now bishop to b5. Again, Levon just putting pressure on the center. He wants to play queen captures on e5. And there are some games where queen to d6 was played, but here we have bishop to e7. Radek says, you can have that pawn. I'm also capable of playing some active chess. Let's see what you got. And okay, it is now as of move 6 already that we have a completely new game. And Levon captures the pawn. Queen captures on e5. Knight captures on c3. Now, it doesn't matter if you capture with the queen first or you go bishop captures on c6 first, all the same. So bishop captures, we have b captures on c6 and queen captures on c3, followed by castles king side. Now, of course, you're not going to capture that pawn on c6. If you capture, I mean, your king is still on e1. Just rook b8, bishop b7, and it's not going to be easy to find moves for white. So after castles, Levon just plays knight to f3. You know, you have to help your pieces help you. Someone said that once. We have pawn to c5 and pawn to d3. opening up the path for the dark square bishop to enter the game. Bishop to b7, gaining this long diagonal for the bishop, and bishop to e3. Now Levon threatening to win the pawn on c5, and we have rook to e8. Now it would be a little bit dangerous to capture that pawn, as a recapture would happen with check, or you can even just play bishop f6, check, and win the white queen. So you have to hide the king to safety first. But Levon doesn't castle kingside, because why would he, and allow the opening of the of his king's position? He plays castles queenside. And this is the position. Levon actually spent only 4 minutes getting to here. So we could say that he's maybe still within his preparation. And now queen to d5, with the idea of maybe going queen to a2, but you don't really gain anything by getting the queen to a2. Levon just plays rook hd1. But he did spend some 11 minutes here, so I guess he was making sure that everything was fine. And indeed, if queen to a2, you just don't care. You capture the pawn, and that's it. There's no way to exploit this. If queen a1 check, you're even lost. You can just play king d2. The queen is hanging, and also the bishop on e6 is attacked twice. So this is resigns territory. Even if you had bishop g5, there's still, I mean, bishop e3. So you're covering e3 many times. Doesn't really matter. So after rook hd1, we have queen to f5 by Radoslaw, and knight to d2 by Levon. Here he avoids the capture on f3 that will lose him a pawn. Instead, he offers the pawn. And believe it or not, capturing that pawn and opening up the g file is the best possible move that black can play. To give you an example, if black doesn't do this, if let's say black just starts an attack on the queen side, or wants to start an attack on the queen side, then you get knight e4. And already it's very, very difficult to find moves here. Even if you eliminate the knight, d captures, okay, you attack the queen, let's say queen g6, bishop to f4. Really tough for black to play. If bishop to f6 looks great, but white is always in time to push this e5 through. So as you cannot make this work, and you just don't have time to get the bishop over to f6, and also if you get the bishop over to f6 now, just queen captures on c5. And without the rook on b8, it's really nothing. And you know, you can trade queens, but you're down material. So instead, bishop captures on g2. I think here Radoslaw already figured out that Levon will capture on c5, and he might as well grab a pawn, you know, if he's trading queens. So, okay, rook g1, we have bishop to f6, forcing a capture on c5. Queen captures, we have queen captures, bishop captures, and the bishop to c6. So this is the position. Levon is up a pawn, but Radoslaw has the bishop pair. So is the bishop pair better, or is the knight and bishop versus the bishop pair plus an extra pawn better? All depends on how you play it. Levon goes knight c4. We have pawn to h6, and now rook d to e1. When you're up in material, you should trade down. That's how chess works, and then your advantage of one pawn will seem like a lot. Now with both rooks on the board, it doesn't seem like all that much. So pawn to a6, we have king to d2 and king to h7. This is a very important move for Radek, because he wants to play g5, but then you can, you know, organize an attack here, and with the king on g8, it's not gonna really work. So he goes king h7, but now Levon stops it, and he stops it beautifully by playing pawn to f4. Now stopping pawn to g5, we have a rook trade, rook captures, and the bishop h4, trying to get the rook of that first rank. Rook to e5, and now we have rook to e8, offering a trade of rooks, the other pair as well. And while you could throw in a pawn to b4, and of course Levon knows this, there's really nothing black can do to prevent you from going pawn to b4 at any moment. So he prepares it, bishop to e3, we have rook captures on e5, knight captures on e5, and now bishop to e8, defending on f7. And again, Levon up a pawn, it's a bishop and knight versus the bishop pair. Pawn to c4, now Levon is starting the pawn storm on the queen side. Bishop back to e7, and pawn to d4. Still waiting with that pawn to b4 pawn push. f6, we have knight to d3, and now king to g6. And believe it or not, there's only one move that wins the game here. Are you able to find it? Try it. Feel free to pause the video and win the game for Levon while I give you a couple of seconds. Yes, the only move that wins the game, before probably you still win, but d5 wins by force. And it's what Levon played. The point being that, let's say you play b4. Black can hold this by playing pawn to c6. And now It still, I mean, requires you to play some really fancy, unique moves. But after you create a passed pawn, and let's say black gets the king into the game, let's say bishop c5, you can avoid this bishop d8, and now let's say bishop to f8, you go after the pawn. Black can even give up the pawn, and you know, for activity. But it's I mean, it's a stretch thinking that someone finds this over the board. Bishop captures on g7, even bishop to b5 now, attacking the knight. Knight c5 check, you're going to play king captures on d5, bishop captures on h6, and bishop to e7, threatening the knight. Let's say the knight moves and king e4. You're down 2 pawns, but you still hold. You're going to win this pawn, then you're going to win this pawn, and in the end, you'll hold. But yeah, it's a draw, but only if black plays a perfect game. But Levon doesn't even make that mistake. He plays pawn to d5, and now the same idea simply doesn't work, because now after pawn to c6, which is the only counterplay black has, I hope you found the next move, because d5 doesn't really make sense if you don't see the next move, and that, of course, is bishop to c5. The entire point behind it being that if you trade, let's say captures, what do you play? D6, D7 is coming, and then you just queen or win the bishop. So C captures, but again, D6, D7 is coming, and after king to F7, D6, you create a wall here, and the black king just cannot get through. If bishop to B5, trying to get the king over E8, you'll play F5, let's say king to E8, pawn to B4, and I mean, none of these squares are available for the black king, so you're really out of the game. It's white can win this, however, white wants to win this. So instead, after bishop c5, avoiding the trade, we have bishop to d8, and now pawn to d6. This is how Levon creates a passed pawn. King to f5, we have bishop to a7, and now king to e6. We have pawn to c5, now the pawn is defended by another pawn, and here we have a most interesting maneuver. Here, pawn to f5 was played, but I'm pretty sure you guys are wondering, why not just king d5? Isn't there? I mean, isn't that just better? Well, there's a very tricky move here that wins the game on the spot, and it's pretty similar to what Levon played. So I'm not going to show it to you because it also works against f5. What is the way to win this? Again, feel free to pause the video and find the winning idea while I give you a couple of seconds. So the move that gets the job done is bishop to b6. You can also improve your position a little bit with a4, but bishop to b6 is the winning move. You will have to play it at some point. Point being that now, how do you defend? If king d7, let's say you avoid the capture, then knight e5 check, and then after king to c8, you will capture the bishop, captures, and pawn to h4. And there's nothing you can play. There's really no useful move for black. For example, king to c8, you can just wait and see what happens, but then the white king starts marching, you capture the pawn, or the black king defends the pawn, and then you play d7, and that will be winning. So it's regardless of what black plays. Bishop to f6 was played, avoiding the capture, and capturing is also really interesting. If you capture on b6, then look at this, c captures, king captures, and now this beautiful sacrifice, knight c5. And you cut off the black king. The pawn prevents c7, and the knight cuts off the king from going d7. And there's just no move that you can play. It's really wonderful. If you don't capture, then knight captures on a6, just b7, b8. Even if bishop to d7, hoping to somehow get the bishop to c7, then you can play b7. Because now after the king goes here, you can play knight captures on d7, and you just win a piece. So you know, you're going to have to capture that pawn if you don't want a queen into the game. So after bishop to b6, bishop to f6 was played, one last attempt at holding, but now knight to b4, bishop captures on b2, and now don't make the mistake of making an automatic move. What is the move? The only move that wins the game, well, I'll give you a couple of seconds. The only move that wins the game, of course, is pawn to a4. You just protect your pawn, and that's it. This is what Levon played, and he was in this position on move 37 that Radoslaw Wojtaszek resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. To give you an example, hard to even find the move for black. Let's say you play something, bishop h5, that pawn will be lost. However you play it, now you have a passed pawn, and you just push that pawn to victory. That's pretty much it. Whatever black plays, bishop f6, you're going to play a5, let's say pawn to g5, black tries to create a pawn, passed pawn, knight c5 check, knight c7 check, king to d7, a6, and that's it. You don't really gain anything by king c8 because a8 is covered by the knight, and if g captures on f4, black is way too slow here. You can just bring a queen into the game, f2, and you can even allow black to get a queen, because it's merely a matter of 2 moves and sorry, not that, and delivering checkmate. Discovered by the bishop. I missed that, but yeah, any knight move will be checkmate. Discovery from the bishop, even knight to a6 will be checkmate. So yeah, very nicely done by Levon. After a4, Radoslaw resigned, and tomorrow Levon gets the black pieces. If he can hold Radić to a draw, or maybe he even plays for a win, then he goes into round 5. Remember, there are 16 rounds being played. That means 32 more players are left, and after round 4, we will have 16 more, then 8, then 4, and then out of those 4, 3 go into the candidates tournament. So a lot to play for. It's one of those rare tournaments where, yeah, you like to win, but you really want to be in the top 3. Like, if you can choose, okay, I can be 3rd, you stop playing. You don't even go for number 1, because the candidates is the ultimate prize. It doesn't matter. Anything else doesn't matter here. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, very, very beautiful stuff from Levon. I mean, against such a strong player like Radoslaw, a3 and queen h5. I mean, that's just again disgustingly beautiful. I really enjoyed it. Hope you did as well. So yeah, I would like to thank Deepak Gangadaran, Udo Brandt, Leo Taruna Loomis, Eddie Sphere, and David Gasparian for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And if you still haven't, download Lotus Chess and, well, improve your chess in the best possible way there is. See you soon.